Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Iowa Pagan News and the Pagan Artist Spotlight on the new National Pagan Podcast Network. We appreciate everyone who tunes in on a regular basis. And now, before we get into it this afternoon with my special guest, definitely would like to put out word that if you want to help support what we have going on here at Iowa Pagan News, be sure to stop by our donation site where you can donate directly, so we can keep up the programming. We can keep up bringing you the content that we're doing for you on practically on a daily basis, and then we can keep up with our subscriptions and keep the radio up and going. Be sure to donate to our Cash App at IAPN Radio 2750. PayPal is at Iowa Pagan News at Gmail, and Venmo is at PLRNIA. Now, we have special guest this afternoon, Erin Rado, who is
Hello,
a good friend of mine. She's a very good friend of mine, and then she's also Erin has a lot of things going on. She is a Celtic artist. She's a publisher of Celtic Nations magazine. She's also the author of The Grey Warrior and Tales of the Ravensdaughter. And yeah, do you think I wear a lot of hats? She's right up there with me. So welcome, Erin. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. I'm also the station manager of Celtic Rock Radio.
Yep. I knew I was leaving off one.
One more. Thank you, Earl. Thank you. And hi, Iowa. Hello, everybody.
Appreciate you taking time out to join me this afternoon. And
appreciate you having me.
Since the last time that you and I really had a chance to talk, I know that we had covered items that you were doing when you're doing your festivals and being a vendor, and plus being the publisher of the magazine. Now that you've got a fantasy series book, when did all this start?
Well, I've always written. My mother had a terrible time disciplining me because go to your room. Fine. And I would just, my grandmother bought me an Adler typewriter when I was 16 years old. And I would just, tickety-tackety. I've always written. And during my business career, I would write business plans and proposals because fiction doesn't pay the bills. Hello, aspiring writers, little dose of reality there. And of course, my mindfulness art is something that I also do because I'm an artist, but writing is my heart and soul. I just love spinning a really good tale and then upending it toward the end and twisting it into something envious of one of the best roller coaster rides you might have ever been on. That's the kind of twists I put toward the end of a book. And I love taking everything that everybody does and go in the exact opposite direction. I don't write fluff, and I don't write encyclopedias, and I don't write elves and gnomes and dwarves and dragons and zombies. Stop it already. In fact, I work with a wonderful editor who told me if I ever wrote a dwarf with a Scottish accent, he would disown me.
Uh-oh.
So, no dwarves, and they wouldn't have Scottish. He said, make it an Italian dwarf if you have to, but just so. I like to create fresh new places and fresh new worlds. And I have the one novel which you're running along on your ticker. It's called Grey Warrior, but Tales of the Ravensdaughter is something brand new, and I'm dying to share it with everybody.
Excellent. Now, let's see. Now, is that one officially out?
Not yet.
Okay.
It goes. The series will launch on September 9th. That's when the books will be out on Amazon. And then they will be available for pre-order next week. And you can find everything on my website, which I'm sure to repeat a couple times during this interview, but it's simple. It's my name, ErinRadoAuthor.com.
Okay, now there is the cover for Tales of the Raven's Daughter, and I have to agree, the artwork on this is just simply fantastic.
Well, I must admit it's not mine, but thank you. Actually, that's the artwork for the full collection, which will go last in the series.
Aha,
So
gotcha. Okay,
I'd love to share the whole that's the second book, Thief
Thief
of
of the
Souls. You're
Soul.
looking for the Beast of Basque is the first one. Yeah, go
Aha,
go in the other
okay,
direction. Yeah, you're
other
go in
direction.
the other
Okay,
direction.
gotcha.
There we go. There's number one. So, would you like to know the origins of how I started this whole project?
Yes, please.
All right. Well, I have another book, Gray Warrior. It just occurs to me I haven't sent you that cover. So while we are talking, I will send you the cover for Gray Warrior. Gray Warrior is something I've been tinkering on for decades. And again, I work with an editor, a wonderful man. His name is Pat Labruto. He was senior editor at Doubleday, senior editor at Bantam. He's worked with Stephen King. He's worked on the Louis L'Amour estate. And he knows the senior editor at Tor, whose name is Claire Eddy. And Claire, we sent over Gray Warrior, and she read it. And unfortunately, I got back. And again, aspiring writers, be ready for this kind of rejection where it's just nondescript and it doesn't help you out. Claire said, "Not right for our catalog at this time." And that just leaves you so crestfallen. It's like, what do you need? I'll write it. So my editor got a come on. And by the way, I think you have that picture now for the cover for Gray Warrior. If you want to pop that up, you can. Your choice.
Okay.
Yeah, it just came. It should have just come through for you. So
Right.
my editor Pat called Claire, and Claire said, "Don't get me wrong, Pat. I loved her book. I absolutely loved it. It was strong. She has talent. It was a good book. And if I could have bought it, I would have bought it." And the reason why she couldn't is because all the major publishers don't maintain mid lists any longer. Yeah, that's the cover for Gray Warrior. Gray Warrior is a story of two guys that have to make it work, and I don't make it very easy to have them make it work. That's the short pitch there. Publishers only have room for their A-listers. They have very limited publishing budgets these days, and they only have a couple slots for new authors. It's incredibly competitive. So having gotten back what I considered a very positive rejection, she loved my writing. Okay, that made me feel good. I decided, okay, she needs something commercial. I'm going to give her something commercial. I'm the Celtic artist at the Southern Cal Renaissance Festival, and it's a 7-weekend show. So I'd gotten this rejection on the third week of the show. So now I'm sitting here just grumbling. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And in my head, all I'm seeing is blank page. I see nothing. Nothing is more frightening than seeing a blank page in your mind's eye. Where do I start? Well, Ravensdaughter has been my art name for over a decade now. I chose it because it's an homage to the goddess Morrigan. And also, it's search engine friendly. You Google Raven, you're going to get 1 million hits. You Google Ravensdaughter, you're likely going to get something of mine. So I thought, okay, you know what? That's a good name. Okay, so now what do you do? Well, I know my girl is, my main character is feminine, so I started building a world around her. And I designed something that, while being really commercial, because when I'm noodling on this at fair, I'm watching 5 guys walking around dressed as the Witcher. And I'm just thinking I can do better than that. Yeah. I know I can do better than The Witcher. I mean, heaven bless you, all you fans who love The Witcher. But I wasn't really completely thrilled even with the books. But actually, they began as short stories. One thing that all the people I started pitching to with the Tales of the Ravensdaughter, one thing everyone loved was short fiction. This is a huge divergence from classic publishing these days. It's basically a disruption of the industry to do them short. Nobody publishes short fiction. And when I say short, I mean you can read one of these books in 1 to 2 hours. It's like reading a television episode. But The Witcher began that way, and it got a fan following, and I think it's because everyone's so busy. We just don't have time to pick up a book that's 2 inches thick and start chowing down on it. Or if you fall in love with it, then you have to put it down and go to work and then come back to it a week later and try and remember where you were emotionally with it. I'm writing 6 little stories that all have a beginning and an end that connect to one another to form an overall arc, but you can just read one and put it down and let it percolate through your imagination and just enjoy it, and then go on to the next one when you're ready. And that's what Tales of the Ravensdaughter is all about.
Interesting. Well, I gotta admit that a good friend of mine that is also the head of the Pagan Rights Coalition, he just got done publishing a small book like that that's going to wind up being a series. And basically, he's doing a really good job with it. And he's one of those people that he likes messing with time travel and likes messing with the timeline. The only thing I could tell him is that naturally I got to read the first one before it even came out, and they'll say it's like I kept telling him that something. It's a good thing that this is a work of fiction, because otherwise, the temporal investigations would be after him.
Well, I had a little trouble convincing my editor that this is the wave of the future, short fiction, because he's a book guy. I mean, for heaven's sakes, he worked on the Star Wars novels. He edited The Queen's Gambit, and he's been in publishing for 40 years. By the way, he paid me a really awesome compliment on my first novel, Grey Warrior. He simply said, "I didn't see your ending coming." And that's something for a guy with 40 years in the industry. He also compared my style to Hitchcock on Phil Dick's Drugs. And while you were snickering about that earlier, anyone who doesn't know who Philip K. Dick is, he wrote The Man in the High Castle and the short stories that became Blade Runner, Total Recall, and Minority Report.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes.
Now that's familiar. Yes.
Phil did a lot of meth. And he did, combined with a few other drugs in his cocktail. And when he did, his work got very dark and very psychological. Now, I am straight, apart from an occasional glass of Chardonnay, but I love twisting it up. I am not afraid to ruin a character's life because it's good. It's dark and it's cruel, but damn it, it's so good. But at the same time, I don't just beat up on my characters to beat up on my characters. I have to leave my readers in a good place. Otherwise, you're just going to say, okay, I've had enough with this sadist. So while I definitely put my characters through the ringer, I will either destroy them in a way that brings closure, or I will redeem them. I'm not going to tell you which, but in either way, it's satisfying to my reader. And that's so very, very important. You just can't be mean to people. You gotta spin a story. Stories have to have an ending that sets people down in a good place, whether it's a happy place or a sad place or bittersweet in between. And again, I won't tell you what I do with the Ravensdaughter, but I promise you it's a good ending. It ticks all the boxes.
Well, it's always a good thing when a writer such as his stature pays you a compliment like that, is not realizing that he says, well, especially with him saying that I did not see that coming.
Yeah, he expected it to go. Okay, I get the main. I'll tease it out a little bit without giving any spoilers. I do get the main character into quite a bit of trouble at the end, and everyone is going to expect the main character to pull himself out of it. Nope, he needs a little bit of help because again, it's the story about two individuals who have to work together, or their world will not survive. So just having one of them lead the story, that doesn't quite work for that particular book. But again, it reads a little bit more like the Queen's Gambit than Game of Thrones, which is why Tor said no. Now, Tales of the Ravensdaughter, all you cosplayers out there, please get the book. 99 cents for an e-copy. You're going to freaking love one of my characters. I have created, if I can go into this now, if you don't mind, Earl, I've created a really solid, fun, gender fluid character. The book starts, the first book, The Beast of Basque. This is not a spoiler to tell you that the girl dies in the first 3 scenes. And then she winds up in the Ether realm. And she's met by a wonderful little character named Odwin, who will present as a youth, a teen boy, or present as a maiden, depending on where Odwin is personally at the moment, and switches back and forth between the characters. And I always picture Odwin as having like this short cropped white hair with little bursts of color. Think David Bowie in the movie The Labyrinth, or if that's too old a reference for some folks, the movie Hook. You have the character, I think it's Rufio, except he has black hair. My Odwin has white hair. But anyway, Odwin brings my girl before the King of Shadows and the Raven Queen, who both offer to have her become their champion. And I won't tell you which one she picks, although the book is Tales of the Ravensdaughter, so that might be a dead giveaway, and dead giveaway being a pun there. So in any case, Odwin is a character who just keeps going throughout the entire series as very sagacious, but also wonderfully sarcastic. Odwin is more sarcastic when Odwin is a youth versus a little bit more thoughtful when she's a maiden, and just so much fun. And if you're poking around on my website, which again is erinradoauthor.com, I just laid in some of the t-shirts, and one of the slogans you guys are just going to love is "Don't fook with the odd." Because I don't want to swear, but we need something approximate. So FOOKE, don't fook with the odd. And that's my fun character, Odwin. And the reason why I did it that way is my king and queen are based on Shakespeare's Oberon and Titania from A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Okay.
Well, if you have them, you gotta have Puck. I mean, it just goes without saying. And I just think if Puck were being presented today, how could Puck not be trans or LGBTQ or in that community? This is Puck we're talking about. A wonderful spirit that is impish, but also helpful. And the name Odwin, I was a little worried to call Odd. It just felt right. I just knew as I was walking around the fair, Ren Fair, creating these characters. Odwin, I just had to call the character Odwin. But I was a little worried people would say, what does that mean? You're calling LGBTQ odd? I wanted to be very sensitive there. So I thought, you know what? Let's have Odwin own this. So my girl actually says, what is that short for odd one? And Odwin takes a little bit of offense and says, all right, as long as you're going to be that way about it. 1, being odd is a perfectly wonderful state of being. I would rather be odd than anything else. 2, I'd rather be odd than, what am I looking for to describe you? Oh, yeah, how about a dead mortal? Now leave your body where it is. It's not going anywhere. Come with me. The king and queen want to see you. So Odwin completely owns being odd. And quite frankly, me too. So that's how I speak. My own oddness comes through with Odwin.
I was going to say, yeah, because that comment that is made to Odwin, they're fighting words, man.
Well, another moment that I have, and by the way, Earl, could I impose upon you to pop up a picture, because I need to reach for my charger, and I'd like people to see something other than me getting up to go get my charger.
Sure, no problem.
Just when you thought you were prepared enough for a 45-minute interview, and you're watching your cell phone tick down to 10%.
Gotcha. Hang tight here just a second, and yeah, we're just gonna bring back up Grey Warrior here real quick. And
or you can go onto the covers for the other Ravensdaughter novels.
Oh, that's true too. Yep.
Yeah, let me just.
And yeah, we'll just bring up Tales of the Ravensdaughter, and then the Beast of Basque.
The Beast of Basque is the first one, and I called it that because my editor also asked something of me. He told me that nobody has ever done fiction based on the Basque culture of northern Spain,
Mm-hmm.
which is true. Everybody uses standard European culture, but with our typical English, again, fairies and dwarves and elves and all that jazz. But the Basque culture is a very rich culture in and of itself. And while I don't exactly use Basque culture, I use hints of it. And so the Beast of Basque is that first hint. But one thing that I found interesting is the Basque culture has a mother and father goddess as well, just not the way we think about it in paganism. But let's see, we should be almost there with this charger here. They're and I'm ready to come on back whenever you'd like me. Of course, I may already be back with everybody watching my camera go, okay, whatever. Anyway, in Basque culture, you have a father god of fire, and you have a mother goddess of water and wind. And when they get together for a good bit of serious lovemaking, storms appear and things like that. And so I thought that was really interesting. The world of the Ravensdaughter has a lot of duality. It's like a living yin yang, really, because I also have my king and queen of the ether realm, which is a word I came up with because I love the word realm with an E on the end of it. And I didn't want, usually in the underworld mythologies, you'll have a single ruler, like Hades of Greek mythology, or Anwen. I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He's the king of the Welsh underworld, but you don't have the duality. And the Raven Queen and the King of Shadows really do play off each other the way, sorry about that, the way Oberon and Titania play off each other.
Okay.
So you have the king and queen below, and then you have the father god and mother goddess above, and then you have Odwin, who is both masculine and feminine, and then you have my girl, who's my heroine, and then you have the guy in the story, and he's a former army captain who's a little older than she is, and he has a very tattered past because dark psych. It's what I love. So you have a lot of duality going on in this series.
The one thing that I find interesting is that, especially when you're saying the name Odwin, because my SCA name is Aldwin.
Oh, there you go.
So it's Aldwyn.
I love it. That is, I did not know that. That is really too cool. It's a small world.
Mm-hmm.
It's a small underworld after all.
Yep. Well, plus, I've also been compared to Hades himself, and the one time that happened, I just kind of looked at the lady and said, "Thank you, appreciate it."
Well, one of the things I love about Odwin provides just the right amount of snark throughout each of these books. And by the way, I totally want this to go to streaming. This would be a perfect pickup. Any producers who might be listening out there, or video game. I'm going to be writing, by the way, an RPG guide based on Tales of the Ravensdaughter after I'm finished with the books. I have one more short story, one more novella to write, and then I'll be writing the RPG guide. But this would be perfect for streaming. But one thing I've noticed about the fantasy franchise that are on streaming is there's, apart from Peter Dinklage's character in Game of Thrones, there's just not enough levity. When that's my website, of course. When Tales of the Ravensdaughter, if you keep going 2 more slides, you'll get my Tales of the Ravensdaughter. Odwin comes on with just the right amount of snark, whether I play a practical joke on Odwin or whether Odwin says don't fook with the odd, or however Odwin presents. There's my Tales of the Ravensdaughter series. Odwin lightens it up, which in my opinion The Witcher could desperately use. And I haven't, the new Lord of the Rings series hasn't aired yet on Amazon Prime, but I'm guessing that's going to be pretty straight up as well.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the map for Grey Warrior. Grey Warrior has a very rich world because it's a novel. I've taken a lot more time with it. And any of you out there who love to write fan fiction, you will have so much fun with the world that I call the Rulans. Now, interestingly enough, most fantasy worlds are based on Europe,
Right.
usually England, because Tolkien started and everybody has to follow along. I didn't do that. Notice that great big river that's running smack dab through the middle of my world there. That's the Rue, R-H-U-E, and that is the source of all magic. And come on, it is so the Mississippi. Just, with little tweaks here and there. Right. Now, on the left side, you'll see my mountain chain. Okay, that's the Rockies. I shifted it over to where Appalachia would be. And I don't have the southwestern desert, but I definitely have San Francisco up there. So I decided to base my model loosely off of the United States, which I think also adds a dash of originality into the book. Mm-hmm. And I only touch on a few regions. I've created a wealth of people and places. But Grey Warrior is only 85,000 words. And for those of you who don't know how to translate that, it's like, maybe 250 pages. It's about 1.25 inches thick. It reads very quickly. You can really chomp it down on a weekend. As opposed to some of the gigantic encyclopedias like Game of Thrones or Wheel in Time or the later Harry Potter books that they're like, I'm looking at the Harry Potter hardcovers in the distance on my bookshelf over there. They're 3 inches thick, 2.5 inches thick. No.
Right.
I like to keep it at a pace. I'm an action writer. As I said, I don't write fluff and I don't write encyclopedias. I hate scenes where you're sitting at the dinner table analyzing what you're eating and what you're wearing. Get out and kill somebody, please. Come on already.
Exactly. All right. Tell you what, we're going to take a brief time out for Station Ident and also to hear from our sponsor for the show here. And then we're going to be right back right after these words. So don't go nowhere. We've got a lot more to cover yet. So stay right to where you're at.
Sister Moon, Apothecary and More is a collaboration of local island witches bringing you handcrafted tools for ritual, amazing apothecary, custom vinyl work, merchandise, and so much more. But we are not just an online store. We are a sisterhood, a platform, and a voice for everything that is magical. Join us for our famous Tarot Tuesdays from 11 to 4 Eastern Standard Time for a discounted reading with our amazing in-house intuitive reader and priestess, Wolf Spirit Energy, Beverly Oberlin. You can find us on Facebook at Sister Moon Store or on the web at sistermoon.shop. So fly on over and stop in for a spell.
All right, we are back with Erin Rado, and this is getting really interesting. This is going to make me want to make sure that I grab all these books as well, and I have it as a part of my library as well.
Thank you. When the series is finished, I will produce it all in a single collection. But I really had fun designing the cover art because I'm a graphic designer as well. And so even though the novellas, again, they're short, they're only going to be about 1/4 inch thick, which was fun when trying to design the spine for these books because there's no place for any words. but the covers are really quite fun and energetic. And so I'll take you on a brief tour through the series if you want to see if you can pop up those pieces of cover art, if you like.
Alrighty. And yeah, just a brief second here. Now, so basically what we're going to be doing is sharing the, it's just the book series, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Let's just go back over here we'll just go back up over here, and we'll do it this way. Let's go back over to the Ravensdaughter. Okie dokie.
Okay, if you scroll down a little bit, there's you should be able to click on one of those covers, and it should come up larger so people can see it.
Yeah, let's. Well, maybe not.
No, maybe you can't click on it. I don't know if you want to try and zoom in, but or the pictures that I sent over on the PM where you had them.
Yeah,
large,
I'll have
and
to
you
do it that way.
Yeah, and you can advance through them because people can't quite see. There.
I'll have to do it that way. Okay, no problem.
So the Beast of Basque is the origin story, and as I said, she dies in the first 3 scenes, and because you really do have kind of a death and rebirth tale here. Alarise is her name, and I chose Alarise because you need to go in the other direction. That's the last one in the series. Go back 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Click, click, and one more. There we go. Beast of Basque.
Yep.
And then
okay.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, got it. I'll tell you when to advance the slide. So Alarise is the feminine version of Alaric, and I was just thinking Alaric the Goth. That name just stuck in my head, and a dear girlfriend of mine said, well, the easiest way to make it into a feminine name is put an E on the end of it. So Alarise is just a tavern mistress who's very good at doing that, but she was born with the ability to walk between the world below and the world above. In the Ether realm, the world below, they call our world Mortalia. She was a natural realm walker. She is always hidden in the shadows. She knows them well, but she didn't know her talent. And it's one of those moments where she had to die and be reborn into this new talent. And as I said, we have the Oddwin character, who is her guide and mentor in many ways. The Raven Queen is her matron, and the King of Shadows is in there as well. And then the man in this series is a gentleman named Creston, again, former army with a little bit of a tattered past. So if you want to go on to the next one is the Thief of Souls, where the Raven Queen tasks Alarise on figuring out who is stealing souls from the Ether realm. Someone's stealing them. And it's either a character, I call her Lalado because she's a fawn. And I have yet to see a really good fantasy series incorporate fawns. I see them walking around all the time at the Ren Fair, and they look fantastic with their antlers and their noses and everything, but I've never read them. So it's either Lalado and the Forest Fawns or a prince named Vigar, who is known as the Wolf Prince. She's got to figure out which one. And if you want to go on to the next one. And by the way, these are all written in the, that's not, there we go. The Wizard in the Wild is just fun action. So at the Escondido Renaissance Fair here in Southern California, there's a group called the Wild, spelled W-I-L-D, the Wild Collective, and they paint themselves in ash and black. And when I was first creating my world, I was wondering if that was a real historical barbarian group. No, they made it up. So I've got a wizard, a silver wizard, and silver sapphire, and then the Wild, these ash and black painted barbarians, and they're being set against one another. And my girl is going to discover who is doing this and why. But in so doing, she actually disobeys the Raven Queen, who strips her of her power. And then you guys just have to read it to find out if she gets it back.
Heck yeah.
So when she gets her power back, sorry, come on, if I took it away, there wouldn't be 3 more books. Rips in the Ether is another really good one with monsters and whatnot. And someone is ripping the ether, and that will destabilize the whole underworld. But in this, my guy, Creston, is having trouble with his current position. I won't let you know what that is because that's a big spoiler in the first book. Okay. But he does become an unwilling, not unwitting, an unwilling adversary of the girl, even though he's very much has feelings for her. But we discover that in Rips in the Ether. There's also a wonderful character in Rips in the Ether. This is where I bring in Sukar, father god of fire. And his devotee is a sorceress named Alya. Alya does not have a left breast. It has been completely burned away. And in its place is this magnificently grotesque scar that's iridescent, because that's where Sukar kissed her. And when you're kissed by a father god of fire, you're going to bear this scar to prove it. But that sorceress wears these one-shouldered gowns. She proudly displays that scar. So in my world, people can be maimed and still be very proud of the maiming.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
The second to last one is the next one. This is Mistress of Her Own Game. This is where I go into a good bit of backstory, and not all of it is happy camper time. And that's pretty much what I'm going to say about Mistress of Her Own Game. But there's a lot of, my girl is doing something, the King of Shadows is doing something, the Raven Queen is doing something. A lot of factors going on in that one. And then the last one is the last one in the series, which is the Ravensdaughter. And that's where I pull it all together. And I've got her raven wings, and I've got Creston's sword there, because the story is very much centered on the ending arc for the two of them. Another thing that's fun about this whole series, and that's all I want to share with on the covers there, I didn't really realize it, but I'd put a drinking scene in every single one of these stories. And in, for example, in Mistress of Her Own Game, it starts out with a mead hall that's in the realm, because the realm is a wonderful afterworld place. It's not hell or any. It's more like Hades in Greek mythology, where you have the Elysium Fields and you have Tartarus. I mean, it depends on who you are, is where you go. But one of my friends who's been reading the book, one of my readers, he happens to be my friend, he says, "Oh my God, we got to get an online drinking game going." And so it occurred to me that I've created in the fantasy world what we've never had. I've created Realm Brew, which can easily be the fantasy equivalent of Romulan ale, because the fantasy world has not had a drink that ubiquitous before. And there's a wonderful company in Vermont called the Groenfeld Meadery, Groennfell, Groenfeld Meadery. And I did a profile on them for Celtic Nations magazine, and they sent me a case. That mead drinks like it drinks like a beer, it drinks like a light beer, and it's so good. And they make some standard flavors. My favorite is, I think it's called the Old Wayfarer, that has a nice honey oak taste. But then they do their Havoc mead, where they do the sour cherry and the ginger, these wonderful, wonderful flavors. So mead is a growing market, and we've got to save the bees. So mead is very important. Yeah. So if this ever takes off in the huge way I'm hoping it will, I want to retain the alcohol rights to my own work and get this company to make Realm Brew. And that's something we'll see in every con suite from here on out, because it's good stuff. And yeah, we need a new drink. Romulan ale is all good and nice, but that's a science fiction venue. Let's all have a nice cup of Realm Brew.
Okay, so along those lines, I have a question. Now, I brought this up in one of the groups I belong to. Seeing how Thorium Brandy has been considered to be hooch, what would be considered to be top shelf? Romulan ale, Andorian ale, or Aldebaran whiskey?
I didn't hear the last one. What was the last one?
Aldebaran whiskey.
Well, for me, top shelf is always going to be some type of an ale because I have a sweeter palate. So I don't go for the whiskeys as much. But I'm just going to go with a classic and just say Romulan ale because a classic never goes out of style.
That's true. That's true.
But Realm Brew, in fact, in the mead hall in the underworld scene, everybody starts rhyming. What do we call it? Realm Brew. Here's to a drink that's true. What do we call it? Realm Brew. And my girl's a tavern mistress, for heaven's sake, so she knows how to do an add-on song. But as the books progress, she's starting to become quite the realm walker, and she is learning her gifts, and she will end the series much a different person than she began.
Interesting. Well, I'm definitely going to be looking forward to this series. And I have a feeling a lot of people are going to love this series.
Again, it's a snack read, 1 to 2 hours. My fastest reader was able to do it in 45 minutes. My slowest reader, who did have comprehension issues, still only took 2 hours because the books move at a nice clip. They move at a nice pace. And it's easy to just sink into my world. Hopefully everyone will really enjoy that. So the releases will be 1 a month. Although if you sign up for my newsletter on my website, again, erinradoauthor.com, I may just make copies available a little sooner to people who are on my newsletter list. So
in other words, be sure to subscribe to the newsletter. That way you can possibly get a signed copy.
Oh, well, that's a given. But also, I want to do some really fun contests. Hello, all illustrators out there. I would love you to draw pictures based on my characters, and the first contest will have a small cash prize, and then, yes, signed copies by the author. And that way we can get some really fun content going on Instagram and on Facebook and on the website. So if you want to connect with me on social media, it's also the same thing, Erin Rado Author. That's my handle on Facebook, on Insta, on Twitter, and it is my handle on TikTok. I just haven't started publishing content yet, but I'm going to be doing book talk videos on my TikTok profile. And I am available if you're an author and you want to know what it's a new author and you want to know what it's like to try and make this work. I am always available. There's a comment and review section on my website. You can always find me at Erin Rado Author on Facebook. I love chatting with people. And we're going to have this whole world is designed for interaction. I mean, I'm not on Reddit yet. I will get on Reddit or have some of my fans get on Reddit. But I want this to be a social media experience as well as just a fun series of books. And it makes us a community, to come together. And that's really what I'm designing, is this place where we can all just go and escape the prattle and the noise that we have to live with and the animosity that we have to live with these days. So that's true. Tales of the Ravensdaughter.
Very cool. And to that drawing challenge, I'm going to put that challenge out to the people I know at Anime Iowa. Because this is going to fall right down you guys' alley. So anybody out there from Anime Iowa, yeah.
I will have intake forms. I'll have intake forms on my website. I'm just finishing up the website this weekend, but you'll be able to interact with me completely for the contests and everything come next week on the website, erinradoauthor.com. But you can also find me, like I said, on all social media at Erin Rado Author.
Excellent. All right, folks. Well, Erin, I definitely want to thank you for taking time out to join me this afternoon. It's always good for you and I to get caught up, and so I know exactly what's going on. And this is sounding like something really special, and that's gonna take off.
I hope so. Who has 2 thumbs and loves the pagan community? This girl.
Most definitely. Most definitely. All right. And then also be sure to check out Celtic Rock Radio as well.
It's a free
And
app. It's free and it kicks arse. I've got so many awesome indie bands. Celtic Rock Radio. Just go to the App Store or Google Play, download it, push play, and blast it, baby.
excellent. I need to connect up with you to get some of the names of those artists because I've got a project in the works that, yeah, I'm definitely be bringing a lot of independent author or independent artists on board with it. So I'll
Yeah,
get with you on that one.
by the way, it's CelticRockRadio.net. But on Erin Rado author, all the way down in the footer, you'll find links to my art store, the magazine, Celtic Nations magazine, Celtic Rock Radio.
Excellent. All right, folks, you've been listening to another edition of Pagan Artist Spotlight on the new National Pagan Podcast Network. Appreciate everyone who tunes in on a regular basis. This has been a fun time. Stay tuned for hour 2. As I'm going to have our pagan musician Kidrill from Wisconsin coming up next at the 5 o'clock hour. So be sure to stick around for that. It's going to be a good time to have, and we will be catching up with Erin here in a little while. And we're definitely going to be, once the books officially get released, yeah, they're going to be getting pushed on the business page and group for Iowa Pagan News and also the new National Pagan Podcast Network. So I will be sure to get those books out there on our social media platforms.
Really appreciate it. Let's build a world together. Heaven knows we could use some bolstering among all of us.
That is very true. Very true.
Blessed be.
Have a great day, everyone. Like I said, stick around for hour 2 coming up here shortly. And we will be back here at 5 o'clock Central Time for with Kidrill from Wisconsin. Have a good day, everyone. We are going to be out of here.